All right, guys. Boom. Welcome to another Poker Life podcast. No live stream today, guys. This is going to be a Poker Life podcast. I'm joined by a very long time, no limit player. Now he is a professional world traveler. I don't know if he calls himself a professional world traveler, but in my opinion and from what I've seen on social media over the past 2 to 3 years, he's a professional world traveler. Chris Sparks, a.k.a. GoMukYaSelf. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's good to be here.
Thank you for out there who watch my podcast normally who play mainly PLO. They might not know who you are. There's also a lot of people from the no limit community who are checking this out right now. I'm gonna tell to the best of my knowledge a bit about who you are for those people that might not know. So you're 20x years old. I got to run a GTO sim on that to figure out the exact age. You're 20x years old. You've been playing poker since before me. So before 2008, you started off at the small stakes, and then at some point in time you won a tournament, and then you became one of the best players in the world somehow at full ring tables. You eventually, I'm leaving out a lot of things, but there's a lot to get to. Eventually, you moved to Hollywood in Los Angeles with 3 other guys, and you got a house in Hollywood, giving me the only opportunity of my life to go to a house in Hollywood a couple times, which is exciting. Then what the hell happened after that? Then Black Friday happened. Then you moved to New York City. Then you became a professional investor. Then you started traveling around the world. And last week you were at Burning Man, or 2 weeks ago you were at Burning Man. What did I leave out? Did I sum it up kind of nicely, or what?
Shit, man, I think you covered most of the major stuff. Yeah, I played some poker until I didn't, and now I'm thinking about doing it again. That's the main shit.
This is alive, too. Wait, is he there? Chris, what'd you say?
I think you covered all the main stuff, man.
What'd you say?
Got me?
Yeah, you lagged out a bit there.
Okay.
Is there any other way to watch it? We got some crazy people in the live stream say, oh yeah, we are live streaming this, guys. So for all people in the live stream, what's up? Welcome here. We'll get to some comments a little bit later. But yeah, okay. So I said I covered most of this stuff. That's true, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So let's go back. So your big kind of break back in the day, you started playing no limit for a pretty long time, but your kind of one of your breakthrough moments was when you won the Sunday Million. That was correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd pretty much just been playing part-time during school until then, and winning the Sunday Million kind of convinced me to take the path less traveled and go pro rather than take a full-time job.
And then, so once you decided to go pro, you then also decided that you were going to somehow transform into the best player in the world.
I mean, that wasn't the idea. The idea was just to avoid having a job. I mean, I really didn't play all that much until 2008, maybe like 10 hours a week because I didn't have that much time. But while I was waiting for the job to go through, I was able to basically do nothing but play poker. And that's when I finally started realizing that I had a knack for the game and I wasn't just like, one-time tournament luck box.
Well, there's been a lot of one-time tournament luck boxes out there. I'm very happy that you somehow managed to not be one of those people. So you won the tournament, and then you kind of started moving up pretty fast after that point in time, and then I want to focus more on what you kind of been doing the past couple of years rather than, I guess, that period of time. So I know a lot of like podcasts, they kind of like give like a whole entire life epiphany and a life story on somebody. But for you, I'm going to assume, well, most of the big stuff, the cool stuff, man, is like in the past maybe 4 or 5 years. So at what point in time, what made the decision for you and Kyle and J Money, Seth, and I think UCI Pitcher, what made a decision for you guys to end up moving to Hollywood and get that place in Los Angeles?
So I know me personally, I basically had like locked myself in a room for like 6 months only playing poker, and it was just like not an ideal scenario because Detroit sucks. It's cold. I didn't know anyone. And my birthday was coming up, and I was able to get some of the old school like full ring grinders together to Vegas to just like do the bottle service and Nobu thing. And after the weekend, we're all like, well, we don't really want this to end, and we don't really want to go back to our parents' basement or wherever we were. It's like, why don't we all get a spot together and just like let it take off? So we're like, all right, what's the closest beach to Vegas? And found out it was LA. So a few of us got in a car and started driving out to LA, and just spent the day looking at mansions. Looked at 10 of them, and the 10th one was pretty sick. So against the advice of pretty much anyone sane, we signed the lease that day and moved in a couple weeks later.
So I hope I didn't leave Fantastic Cow off that list, because obviously Fantastic Cow was in the house too. Fantastic Cow, for those people who followed my recent Play Money prop chip bet, made a very important appearance at the end of that bet, luckily. This house, right? I think it was maybe like $30K a month in rent, I believe. Was that what it was?
20K 5 ways, yeah.
20K 5 weeks. I remember there was one point in time I was in San Diego, and I think I didn't have a very big role at the time, but I was doing okay. And then someone moved out of the house, and you're like, oh, there's a room opening up. It's like 5K. I was like, well, this might be the only time in my life I could ever do this. I should say yes, but then I knitted it up and I said no, and I probably regret that decision still. But we're in the house now, okay? We're living in the house. You got the master bedroom, right? Of
course.
Because you were making the most money at the time?
We had like an auction the day we moved in, and I was the one who outbid everyone, essentially. Because, I mean, can you just imagine how great it would be to have a hot tub in the middle of your bedroom? That's worth any price, right?
No, I can't imagine that. I'm sorry. I want to imagine it very badly, but fortunately, I'm gonna have to just live vicariously through these stories that you're about to tell me what happened. So you get to this house. When you get to this house, what kind of person are you at that time? Because I mean, were you kind of like a shy, like laid back type of person? Would that describe you then, or were you kind of even a bit more? I don't know the word I'd use to describe you right now, but you're certainly not shy and laid back right now. So.
I mean, if I had to sum it up in a word, I would say I was really naive. We were all super young. I think I was like 22 years old. Never really been outside of Ohio. Never really like gone out to clubs. Just like pretty shy and quiet and nerdy. Just like spent most of my time like on the computer reading and playing poker. And I'm kind of just like thrown into the deep end of like, all night partying and models and bottle service. And like it was it was quite an education, right?
I mean, I can only imagine. I know that so you guys got there. I'm sure you guys probably were expecting to play a lot of poker, but I know a couple of your roommates kind of got pretty caught up in that whole entire LA lifestyle of going out. Obviously, the attractive women, the hookers. I don't know if I'm not going to get into my normal sayings, but because there might be some people listening that are family. But LA, man, tell us about LA. What's it like out there, man? What's it like living there? What's it like going out there? What's it like bringing people back to the house? Tell us. Most of the people in the live stream probably have never done that, so why don't you tell us a bit about that?
It's one of those things that I have absolutely no regrets doing. I mean, it was one of the best and most memorable periods of my life, but I wouldn't run back and do it again. LA is amazing if you're young and good looking and have lots of money and are willing to just like throw it around like it's water. But it's not a great place if you're looking to meet like, really cool, interesting people who want you more for like who you are as a person rather than what you can get for them. And definitely found that the sort of people we attracted there were more friends with us because we had a big mansion with a pool and we're going to get them into bottle service tables rather than because we thought we were cool guys. Just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that like I have any regrets. I mean, I had an absolute blast, but I mean, it's not somewhere that I'd recommend for a lot of people to live.
So it's kind of like a situation where if you go into it with the right mindset, kind of just embracing. I mean, I think one thing you said. I think probably a lot of people would go into that situation with the mindset that I'm probably going to meet a lot of people who aren't good people, who are only want to be friends with me for this house or for the bottle service. And I think that if you, what do you think that if you have, if some people might have a different mindset about it and they choose to maybe accentuate themselves or present themselves in a different way, that they could probably meet some decent to good people out there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we were just right in the middle of Hollywood, so we were like, balls deep in industry people. And some people really love that. I mean, one of the former guys, Seth, is back out there in LA, still going out every night. I mean, that's his thing. For me, it's not really what I'm looking for. But I mean, again, it's a big city. It's a lot like, you go from one neighborhood to another, you're going to find different people, and that's what we happen to find.
Yeah. Did you happen to find yourself hanging out? Like because how long did you last, like, kind of in that whole entire going out all the time scene? Because I know you were pretty heavy into grinding and kind of maintaining the ability that you had at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we essentially wake up at like 2 p.m. and play all day until like 10 p.m. when it's like, all right, what's the good club to go to tonight? And text all our hosts and see, who's willing to give us the best deal on a table and just head straight to the club. So it's basically like poker club, poker club, poker club with some sleep mixed in. I mean, pretty consistently through the whole year and a half, I would say we were going out like 3 or 4 nights a week. It was a lot.
Wow. At this time, I mean, I don't know how much we want to get into this, but is there a lot of drinking going on? Is there a mixture of drinking, drugs? Is it like, what kind of lifestyle is it like out there? Are a lot of people on drugs? I mean, I'm not even sure what I would assume most people are, but that's just what you hear and the stereotype that you assume when you think about Hollywood or about LA.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we were like relatively clean cut, but it was snowing all around us.
That makes sense. I think at that point in time when I came up there, I like had no idea what drugs were. I was like, I'd like never been in like a big city really. I've been in San Diego and then I lived in Chicago. But besides that, like LA was like this totally foreign place, and I was like scared. I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here. There's like a hill. I had to park my car on like an incline up a hill. I'm like, what the fuck is this weird place, man? That was a pretty eye-opening kind of experience, just experiencing that. It was kind of motivating for me at the time because I was like, man, this could be, if I work hard or if I get better at poker, this could be a situation I could find myself in one day. And maybe we'll give you guys all the credit. I'll give you guys all the credit for the success I might have had at pokers because that poker house might have been one of those turning points, man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Toma.
I mean, it's pretty interesting because, I mean, I think for all of us, it was our best year of poker of our entire careers, and probably the year that like the games were the worst. So I think there was something to just living in a place like that was super motivating, where you felt like you sort of deserved to win. And I mean, being right there with three other players who are just like really, really good and playing all the time motivated to play more and play better. So I think, I mean, despite the amount of money spent, it might have been a good investment.
That makes sense. I think that's something that people always, when you talk about being a poker player and traveling and living in a different country, and they talk about sometimes people just rent a shitty place, and sometimes people like to rent a very nice place. And when you ask people that, why do you guys want to rent an expensive place? Why do you want to rent a nice place? They feel like that, as you said, it is pretty motivating for them to just be in that environment and kind of look around every day and kind of like that really gets them going. That gets their juices going. That gets them motivated to really work hard. And it kind of sounds like that was a big thing for you guys as well. You guys kind of, fed off that energy and that just the whole entire environment and kind of used it for the better.
Yeah, not to get too much into strategy, but I think your mindset is absolutely massive. Like the environment that you're playing in is kind of a big part of what you bring to the table. And I think it's important to be in like a healthy environment that's going to keep you happy and like is going to bring out the best aspects of yourself.
That makes sense. Did you okay, so you lived there for 1.5 years, right?
That's right.
When was the turning point? Black Friday happened while you were living there?
Yeah, so it happened 2 months before our last lease was going to end.
Wow.
So less than ideal timing. We actually had a reality show out there that was scheduled to start in the summer.
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole, the whole concept of it being playing online poker in an LA mansion, which was no longer possible. So that kind of got scrapped. We went out to Vegas for the summer, and then the plan was to move out to London right after World Series. Myself personally, I completely failed at that, and they denied me entry into the country. So I was sitting in outside of the UK, in Barcelona actually, with no possessions, no plan of where to go, and just kind of like, what the fuck am I going to do now?
So I remember that time. I was like, wait, what? How could if GoMuk? This has been my thought process when I think about London ever since then. If GoMuk can't get into London, there's no fucking way they're letting me into London. I'll tell you that because I mean, I've never even thought about going there because you got denied entry. Like seriously, I'm like, there's no chance they're letting me in. Like, what happened with that? Why didn't you get in there?
I think they have that like episode of the Micros where he's going through security and they have all the terrorists and they're helping him out with like their bombs and their ninja stars. And like the main character of the Micros is like, oh, I'm an online poker player. These are poker chips. And he immediately like they send in like the SWAT team to like tackle him down. And that was like pretty close to like my exact experience going through customs, where I was naive enough where they asked like, what are you going to do for money? And I said I played poker. They like back roomed me and held me overnight and just decided that they were not going to let me in. They said if I came back within a year, I'd be arrested on site. Talking to lawyers, they said it would take like months of like red tape to get it sorted out. So I just kind of turned my back on the whole idea.
Wow. So you're sitting here in Barcelona. What's going through your mind? Are you thinking about maybe moving somewhere else? Are you, what are you kind of thinking? What happens next?
It's a pretty emotional moment because, I mean, Black Friday represents a pretty big turning point for me, where it's like, okay, how serious am I about continuing with this poker lifestyle? Is this something where I want to live abroad and do this forever, or is it kind of like time to do something else? And I took it as maybe a sign that maybe I should be doing something else. A big reason why we picked London is that it's a travel hub to get throughout Europe. It's like, all right, well, if I came over here to play poker and travel and I can't play poker, I might as well start traveling. So it started with just like visiting a couple friends for weekends, but like before I knew it, I blinked and it was 6 months that I'd been traveling through Europe, staying in hostels, couches. Just I think I hit about 20 countries total. Just waking up every day and deciding which city I wanted to go to, and it was absolute time of my life. And I realized that I didn't really need to make millions in order to live that kind of lifestyle, and that maybe there was another way to do it.
So were you playing any poker during this whole during that 6 months when you were kind of traveling over there?
Essentially, I haven't really played online since mid-April 2011. I've played some live poker. I would say maybe like a couple hundred hours since then, but like for all intents and purposes, I've been retired since then.
So interesting. I wasn't sure if you played any online. I know you played some live because I've seen you post some things over the years that said you were in Vegas kind of grinding or anything like that. Why haven't you decided to play any online since then?
It was weird. It's something that I wouldn't say I regret, but maybe I should have done is I just never went through the process of just like getting physically relocated, like having a base so I could get on there. I mean, because presumably I've been abroad most of the time. I could have been playing the whole time, but I never actually settled down anywhere long enough to do it. And for me, kind of mentally, I just kind of turned my back on poker. I wanted to do something else. I kind of had larger ambitions where I maybe wanted to get back into business or do something else for a while. For me, it's kind of like all or nothing. Like when I was playing poker, like every waking moment of my life was consumed with how to play poker. But I mean, once I was given this opportunity for a clean break, I kind of wanted to embrace it and like spend all that time doing other things.
So during this time, the 6 months that you spent traveling, what were you doing during that time? How are you filling your time if you're not playing poker? Were you focusing on something else? Were you just focusing on the experiences and meeting people and kind of enjoying yourself as best as you could?
Yeah, I mean, I had never had the opportunity to just travel without poker. Like when you go to poker tournaments, you show up and you just talk more poker with players in a more beautiful setting. Everyone's like sitting there on their laptops in the middle of the hotel. And like now I was surrounded by just like some of the most like interesting and smart people I'd ever been around, and it was really really exciting for me.
So, and kind of that in that scenario, are you? I imagine meeting people, making friends, meeting women is like an interesting thing because you probably are only going to see them for a very short period of time. So when you go into something like that at that period of time, because I'm sure it might be different now when you go into the same situation, but back then, what was your mindset going into these? I guess these encounters with people. Were you trying to make friends to travel with? Were you trying to meet someone to fall in love with for the night? Like what's kind of like your outlook on that at the time?
All the above, man. If you ever seen Fight Club, he talks about single-serving friends, where you're sitting next to someone on the plane and they know absolutely nothing about you, and most likely you'll never see them again unless you really want to. So it's like every day you're waking up in a new city and you can completely create a new persona for yourself. So almost, I would say 90% of the time, I never even would mention the word poker. It would always be about like other things that I happen to be interested in exploring in. So it's like, oh, today, like, I'm a medical student. I'm thinking about like, getting my PhD in the next couple of years, and just kind of exploring those different conversations. And it was really cool, I thought. It's sort of like, single serve identities.
I'm going to look more into this actually. It sounds like one day I could pretend to be Tim Stone and talk about how I like little Thailand people. But that I don't think you'd want to pretend that you like Thailand men, women, I don't know. Tim, you know Tim Stone, right? Tim Stone, Tim Stone out there. Tim Stone's an interesting guy. So Tim Stone, I know you're out there. Hello, nice to see you. I gotta give Tim Stone a shout out. I gotta give some live stream. I haven't gone this far into a live stream without mentioning anyone in the chat, so I have to give some. We got some full ringers you might know. Obviously, we got Marty Rose, Biggie Smalls in the house. We got Tim Stone. We got our boy Ariel, who took us to the Laker game that one day. Ariel. What was his poker star's name?
Areolas, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah.
I just know him as Ariel now. I don't know. I don't remember his old name.
Multi-million-dollar a hand a year legend.
Ariel is definitely a legend. He's a true legend. I got a bunch of podcast regulars. I got a bunch of live stream regulars that tune in every day out here. Allie, bro, Steve, Monkey Man, Matt. What's up, guys? DC Games. God, man, you guys come out for anything. I don't understand what these people do all day. They're here every day. They're amazing. These guys just come here every day, man. They're awesome, man. We love them. Viddy.
No money in full ring. Everyone's solid.
Well, these guys all luckily play PLO, so we don't. I don't think I know any. The only people I talk to. We got Dylan, of course, Dylan Duvall, who you know. Hoonist was his old star's name back in the day. We got Vidinator out there. Yeah, man. So let's get back to this. So you're traveling. 6 months goes by. Then what happens?
Well, you can't stay in the EU longer than that, so I had to go back. I made a list of all the cities that I was interested in moving to in the U.S. Like real like nerdy like spreadsheet with like weighted averages on like what all the things that are important to me. And then New York came up top, so I just booked a flight right to New York and landed with my backpack. And I was like, oh yay, I'm gonna like get into startups. This is gonna be fun.
That's all. Man, I'm feeling inspired by this conversation right now. Let's keep this going. See, ransom GTO Sims. It lands on New York. All right, so now you're in New York. You're with your backpack. You get a place, right? What happened? So I don't actually know what happened this time period. You end up in a place. Then you start kind of working at some type of business. Are you working for somebody where you have your own investing thing? What was going on during that point in time?
So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I kind of just showed up without any really like applicable skill set or anything sort of like value I could add. All I knew I wanted to hang out more with entrepreneurs because I'm a firm believer in that like you hang out with the people who have like the skills and the characteristics that you want to have. So it's like I want to hang out with people who want to change the world, who are ambitious, who are like busting ass and working hard every day. And I was like, oh, that sounds like an entrepreneur, so I want to do that. So it's like, okay, so what skills do I have? So as some people I know with poker, I was really involved with staking, particularly in like the full ring and six max games. And it's like, okay, well I can recognize a profitable investment. Maybe I'll start investing in startups. And I learned early on that pretty much every startup investment that was going to come on my desk was going to be a piece of shit. And I might as well just like light the money on fire and like make a YouTube video of it. It'd be a better use of my time and money. So originally I was a marketing major back in college. Is what I wanted to do. Like my original ambition was like to be the chief marketing officer of a company by 25. So I thought I'd kind of explore that trajectory again and get back into marketing. So the idea being combining like marketing and psychology with like the statistics and like poker tracker analytics type stuff that we're working with in poker, and using that to help startups find customers cheaper. So I started consulting, which in reality means that like I went to my friends' companies and I did work for them for free in exchange for them saying that I did work for them. To the point that I finally learned something that was of value about 6 months in and joined a fashion startup called The Cools in about May, full time. But usually I had an interview with the CEO and he's like, I have no idea like what you're gonna do here. I just know that like you're good with numbers and you could probably use someone like that. So I started off just being like a numbers guy, where if they wanted to know something that required numbers, I would like look it up, and eventually moved my way up to the point I was like running the marketing for the company. But it was just becoming like too much work and too much stress, and I felt like I had kind of gotten all the knowledge out of it. So in December, I decided to quit.
So this was December of which year?
2013. About 7 months ago. Yeah.
Wow, you worked there a long time.
Yeah, we're about 8 months.
Wow, that's a long time for a kid like you, in my opinion. So, living in New York City, what was that like? How is that different from living in, I guess, obviously you weren't living in the mansion like you were in Hollywood. What was life different? How different of a person were you at that point in time approaching that situation compared to when you approach the Hollywood situation?
I absolutely love New York. I think it's the greatest city in the world. It's like a vortex for like beautiful, interesting, ambitious people, and there are just like hundreds of things you could be doing that are awesome at any given point in time. Friends are always passing through. You can walk to everything. It's just like the place to be, and I was just like absolutely never bored, and it was very easy just to get swept up in that like everyone is just like so work hard, play hard, that I just made so much progress in a lot of areas of my life. Professionally, I really learned like what it takes to like run a successful business, particularly on the marketing side, and I think that's a skill that'll really help me in a lot of areas of life. Not to mention just meeting like a lot of like really talented and extremely rich people who hopefully will stay in my network for a while. So yeah, I mean, like my daily job was like wake up at the ungodly hour of 8 a.m., like go to work, bust my ass for like literal peanuts, like less than I made like in a day of poker was like my annual salary. I would do that for like 12 hours straight, get back at like 8 p.m. and like pretty much like head to the bar before falling asleep at like 11. That was sort of like my daily schedule.
So you were doing the regular world grind, the work, bar, home, work, bar, home sort of thing?
Yeah, I had this sort of like glamorous notion that I was going to be like sitting around with a whiteboard, like the social network, and just like coming up with ideas, and then like some other person would go out and do them. And in reality, like startups are like really hard work, and they have little or no glamour at all. It's really tough. So I mean, I learned a lot. It was sort of like my 8 month like MBA, where they paid me a little bit to like learn a lot, but it's not really a great way to get rich or to have like a balanced life.
So working a job is not the best way to get rich, or what do you mean by that? Or no, I'm sorry, working a job is not the best way to get rich slash have a balanced life.
Working for the man,
Working
in
for the man.
essence.
Okay.
I mean, I think you can, as long as you can run a business where you set the terms. I think both of those are achievable. But if you are an employee taking a paycheck and sort of like your productivity is being measured by the hour, it's not really going to take you where you want to go.
So don't you think it's easy for you to say that sitting in a position where you don't necessarily have to worry about money or worry about how you're gonna pay your bills in 2 years or something like that? Because a lot of people, I mean, it like in because I mean I agree with what you said, but as when I talk to people and I tell them that similar thing, it's really it's easy for me to tell you that like when I don't have to fucking worry about money. But for people out there who do have to worry about money and do have to how they're going to pay their bills now and pay their bills in the near future, what would you recommend? How do they get from this point where they're working for the man to potentially make some progress to get to that point where then they are setting their own terms of their schedule and their life?
I would suggest winning a tournament.
Winning a tournament. That's no, my God. Don't fucking tell. We don't advocate tournament play on these things at all. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. That's just not one thing that we focus on. So you suggest they play high stakes PLO and try to win the money that way, then, huh?
Honestly, okay, I would reframe the question. Um, so I think you mentioned like paying bills. I think a better way for them to do it would be to like look closer at what bills they're paying and how aligned they are with their long-term goals. I think especially when it comes to stuff like travel, people tell me all the time like I can't afford to do it, but they're spending way more money doing nothing than I was spending traveling. You know what I'm saying? So like I define I define wealth as like the experiences it buys me, not the things it buys me, unless those things enhance an experience. So sort of like a 4-hour work week style, like sitting down and saying, okay, what are my goals? Like what are the things I want to do? Like how important is it for me to drive an amazing car? How important is it for me to have a 5-bedroom mansion in the hills? How important is it for me to like spend $5,000 on bottle service? And like I realized that like none of those things were really important at all to me. They weren't really like what I was looking for. More I was looking for is like unique experiences, which usually didn't cost anything. Um, so I guess the answer to my question, answer your question, would be to like figure out what's the bare minimum they need to make in order to like create those experiences for themselves, and find something that can do that without using all their time. Does that help?
It helps. It's just a question that I get. I specifically got from my ex-girlfriend all the time, and she would say, what can I do? What kind of business can I do? How can I work for myself? And I mean, I had some ideas, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know. I'm not sure what to say to someone who's like, well, how do I stop working my job? And I mean, I think a lot of people that are regular viewers of this, they either play poker for a living or they aspire to be professional poker players. So they're not necessarily looking to stop playing poker anytime soon. But I'm sure there's going to be some people listening to this who are in a similar position, who've had success in poker and have some money saved up, and then they want to kind of progress more into a similar type of path that you took. What would you recommend to those type of people who have had success and who do have some money saved up to be able to afford to take some risks in their life or try something new?
I think that was two questions.
Was it?
The first one, she said people who aren't necessarily in a position to like they need to make some money. They aspire to start their own business, that kind of thing. And I would say stop fucking expiring and start fucking doing. Like I'm a firm believer in like course correction over planning. And like for example, with poker, like if you want to play PLO, don't sit there and read books for 6 months. Get out there and start playing hands.
Exactly, guys.
The best way to learn is to do it.
Hop in the
Um,
pillow.
I mean, guys who have, and same thing, like guys who have some money saved up and are trying to figure out what they want to do with it, figure out what their goals are, and like try taking small steps towards those goals to see if they're actually in line. So if one of their goals is like, I want to like go surfing, well, take a surfing lesson and see if it still interests you, right? Like take steps towards those goals and see if they're still in line.
I like that. I'm gonna start taking. Listen, I'm telling you, I'm getting inspired right now again, man. When's the last time I saw you? I saw you at. I think I
I
saw you.
think down in Miami at Ultra Music
Oh my
Festival.
God, dude, that was.
You were a shit show as usual.
Dude, that was insane. Why don't you? I mean, okay, so for those people that didn't know anything about me during that time period of my life, can you explain a little bit about me at that current time when you saw me at that point in time?
So, I mean, there's a big electronic song out that says, eat, sleep, rave, repeat. And that was essentially Joe Ingram's life at that point in time, where if there was a festival, he was there with his neon tank top and furry head, like, just fist pumping straight in the front row, like, on another level. Yeah, you were something else.
You know what? You kind of saw me right, like a very peak. That was like that was the middle of it. There was like a 10-month time period, and Ultra Music Festival in 2013 was like right after Australia, right in the peak of like a bunch of traveling, a bunch of festivals, and then yeah, that was an interesting time, my friend. That was interesting. I remember that. I was really fucked up. I'm pretty sure during the whole time period, but yeah, that was the last time I saw you, man. That was fun. The time before that, I think I raged the Lollapalooza one time. Me, you, and Marty.
Yeah, that was a blast, too.
And that was when I first realized you raged. I was like, wait, what the hell is GoMuk doing here? I didn't know you like music and dancing and like did this kind of stuff. I didn't know that previously to that point. That was
I was a big festival hoe for a while, man. I've been to a few dozen of them. I'm not as huge. I try to be a little more selective on which electronic shows I go to now because I think the music in general has kind of gone downhill. It's just become more mainstream, but I still absolutely love that scene.
So we got a couple other people in the chat that want to say hi. So tell Chris, Tim Lee says what's up. Tim
What's
Lee says
up?
what's up. We got Andre S. He's a regular. Jose Acampo. I can't remember Jose's friggin' PokerStar's name, but he says hello too. I know he's a longtime full ringer out there. What else do we got? Travis Petty. T Petty, the guy he's the one I went up to your house with. We took a nice drive up there. That was fun. He made me drive. I hate him for that. Why is Joe such a podcaster? Now calm down, Petty. I'm gonna call your sister up, man. You don't calm down right now. Oh, we all got sisters, man. It's okay, man. I got a sister. GoMuk's got a sister, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So you just touched on music festivals, and you actually just recently got back from a festival. I don't know if I'd call Burning Man a music festival, but how would you describe Burning Man? Was that your first time there? What was that experience like?
Shit, I mean, I've tried so many times, and I don't think I've ever successfully like given it justice with a description. I would imagine it's sort of like trying to tell a blind man what the color pink looks like. If you've never seen it, there's no way of knowing. So it's a festival, but I'd say it's more of like an art festival than a music festival. And what I've sort of discovered is that like Burning Man and other such groups around are essentially like these secret societies that you can join and be a part of just like absolutely like super interesting, exceptional people that like once you go and attend and meet people there, like your life will just be completely transformed. And anytime that you like meet someone who's had that same experience, you can just sort of like give them that like secret wink, like you know what's up, like it's sort of like self-selection, like we're both on the same level now. If you needed help, I would help you out, and vice versa. So like, I mean, I'm a huge proponent of Burning Man. I think it's just like the greatest collection of like the world's greatest people for 1 week. Essentially, everyone builds a city in the desert. So at its basis level, you have 1,000 bars which are giving out alcohol 24 hours a day. with music and DJs, anything from like super underground house to like the top guys like Skrillex and Diplo and who else, like deadmau5, Above and Beyond, like all these like huge electronic guys are also burners, like, and they go and they put on like massive sets for free. You have people teaching classes on everything from circus to like sex positions to like meditation and yoga, like all the above. And you just go there, like wear crazy clothes and be whoever you want for a week, and it's an absolute blast.
Well, fuck, man, I'm in. Sign me up. Man, I'm ready to go. I didn't quite. So, did you go with a group of people you already knew, or did you go by yourself, or how did that come up?
So this is the second week. The second year that I went. Last year I went with a group of people I knew pretty well. It was pretty small and tight knit. This time I was part of a theme camp called Camp Awesomeness, which was 120 people together, building basically like a massive bar and club, which hosted like crazy parties throughout the day, including like Naked Twister and like that kind of stuff. It was definitely a different experience. A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Were you part of the Naked Twister?
No, I got the time wrong and I missed out, but I heard it was pretty epic.
Were you gonna play naked? You were gonna be naked playing Twister?
I don't know. It's one of those things like you don't know like how far you're gonna like push your edges until you're in that spot. I have been naked before there. It's not my thing. Just it's sort of like one of those like check off a box kind of things. Like, okay, I was naked at Burning Man, but I usually prefer to keep my bits and clothes. But that kind of stuff does happen.
What was this naked at Burning Man? What is that? So how do you end up naked at Burning Man? Is it just you meet an attractive girl? She's like, hey, take out your clothes, or what? How does that work?
I mean, there are so many attractive girls there, but it's like an anarchist society. There are no rules, so like you don't have to wear clothes if you don't want to. So some people don't.
Burning Man sounds like my kind of spot, man. This sounds like a place I'd really enjoy. Wow. So you mentioned attractive girls, right? So during this time period of worldwide adventurements, have you had a girlfriend during that period of time? Have you been kind of single the whole time?
Officially, I've been single the whole time. I've met girls who I really adore, but usually our paths diverge after a point in time. The travel lifestyle isn't super conducive to like a long-term girlfriend.
So can you repeat that? You lagged out again. So you said traveling like that isn't conducive to having a long-term girlfriend.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I've had girls who I really like a lot, and we have a great relationship that's intense. But usually the path diverges because she's going somewhere and I'm going somewhere else. So it's traveling in general is really only conducive to being single.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, do you think that if you felt like you made a conscious decision to kind of remain single during this period of time because of that's that thing right there, is that if you want to have these experiences and travel and do all these things, it's much easier. Slightly, it might be not possible to do that if you were in a relationship with somebody. Is that a decision you've actively chosen to make, or it just kind of happened to be that way?
Both. I mean, I certainly have a much higher standard now than I would have before for someone I'd want to have a long-term relationship with, just because it would be difficult, and the opportunity cost of doing so is so high, not only with not being able to travel so much, but not being able to meet, all the other amazing women around the world.
How old are you right now?
27.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll talk to you. I'm going to ask you the question again in 4 years. See where your head's at on that one, buddy. When you get my age, kid, I'm an old man now. I don't think I ever would have said something like this to you ever in my life, but when you get my age, you start seeing things a little bit differently, man. Who are these fucking people? Shut the fuck up. Listen, ask him if he's ever been curious about having a boyfriend. Maybe, who knows? Fucking crazy guy like you ever been curious about having a boyfriend?
Am I supposed to justify that one?
I mean, that's some of the question. Maybe he's got a guy interested in you. A good-looking guy like you. You got a beard. You got the cool checkered shirt. They might want to, they might want to know. Jose,
I'll take a shot at that humor. I mean, I am in San Francisco after all. I just walked through the Castro and had some brunch.
oh,
I mean, I've thought about it in the sense that like having a boyfriend would be way better than a girlfriend because, you know, they're not like little bitches, right? You can it'd just be like, hey, I'm gonna like go play sports, and you know, hey, we're gonna have sex now, that kind of thing. I mean, that would be pretty nice, but like, yeah, I'm pretty squarely on the straight side. So, thanks for your question, Bobby.
yeah, Bobby. Thanks for your question, my friend. I get asked questions all the time like that. You know, hey, my advice is, if you want to try something, you go try it. All right? You want to be with a guy, you don't want to be with a guy. You know, you do what you gotta do, guys. You know, don't be scared. Don't be scared to try whatever you want to try, man. Andreas, I don't think Chris is in a big girl grinder. I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't know if you or your audience knows, I'm moving down to Argentina in November. My current play is I'm traveling around the states, going to some national parks and big cities, visiting friends, but moving down to Argentina. I'm very, very much into that like skinny, exotic, petite girl you find in like Colombia and Argentina. So, yeah, not a big girl at all, unfortunately.
Nope, we don't. Nope. 160 or below, gotta go. You're only allowed to date girls 160 and above. 160 and above, we show you love, man. That's kind of. Tim Stone made that saying up actually, but yeah, that's how it works. But I don't think the Argentinian girls are. They're not. You're right. They're a little bit tinier. So what's your plan now? So you're in San Francisco right now. You're gonna be traveling through the United States of America, and then you're gonna head down to Argentina.
Yeah, that's what I have penciled in. It's nice that I can kind of just wake up and do whatever. So right now, what's kind of interests me is just like seeing the country. I realize that there's just so much in the U.S. that I had never gotten a chance to see. Both natural beauty and just like amazing cities, great food, great nightlife, and yeah, that's my grind right now.
So what do you have planned ever San Francisco? Is there anywhere specific you have penciled in?
Gonna bike around, doing some day trips. I just got back from Yosemite yesterday, which was pretty amazing.
Saw some photos.
Did a lot of hiking up there. Going like whitewater rafting later this week. There's a pretty sick No Limit game down in San Jose I'm gonna check out. Play it by ear, honestly.
Wait a second. How much fucking money did you make playing poker that you just don't do anything? You don't do anything for money now? What the hell?
So Joe, I'm gonna blow your mind right here, right?
Uh-oh.
All right. So when you go out to the bar, like, how much are you spending on a drink?
Well, I've only drank maybe 5 times in the past year, so I actually don't drink that often. So not much money, luckily.
No. So let's say if you were going to buy a drink, how much would you pay for one drink?
$14.
All right. What if I could tell you for that $14 you could live in a lot of cities around the world?
I would need more information on this. How this is possible, of course.
Think about it as like currency arbitrage, right? If you're earning dollars and you're spending in a currency that's not worth as much, say you go down to like Southeast Asia or South America, you're essentially getting like 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1 return on your money, and you can live pretty comfortably on like $20 a day. So it's ironic in that like I'm making like literally $0, but I'm saving money compared to like living in New York and like working 12 hours a day. Just because cost of living difference.
Yeah, that was so GTO. That was like so sick. That was such a sick. There might be some people that watching that like know you that don't know about what GTO means, but trust me, that was GTO. Just Google GTO. That was GTO as fuck right there, man. We're very okay, guys. Did you guys hear that out there? I know a lot of people out there are gonna want him to expand on that one idea right there because that was super GTO. But
so like a big factor in this, like when we got paid back from Black Friday, right? Full tilt finally, this April after 3 years, and I got that deposit in my bank account. I'm sitting at a large enough amount that I can't say it publicly, but very large. I'm sitting on this beach in Thailand in this bungalow. This like most beautiful white sand beach, perfectly clear water. You have like half naked women like walking right across my field of vision. As like I look down at my bank statement and see this number, and I look down and I do a quick like calculation. Is like I could sit in this exact spot for the rest of my life and never work another day again. And like that's when it really put it in perspective to me.
Well, I think that's. Let me do a quick sim in my head right here. That's a lot of money, kid. Well, like Thailand, though. Tim Stone says Thailand's cheap, so I mean, I don't know. That's wow. So, well, you mentioned businesses earlier, right? You mentioned investing. Is that still something that's on your mind? I'm guessing, is that something a year or 2 or 3 down the road, or is that something more in the short term right now?
I'm always looking for investments. It's just a matter of whether I come across good ones. So I've had some good like one-time things that were sort of like flashes in the pan. One coming to mind was like betting on the election in 2012. There was some really good like arbitrage there. I mean, I'm kind of interested in like investing in people again, not in like a business, but like literally investing in people is like an idea I'm starting to explore. But it's more like being heavy in cash so that like when these like rare opportunities come up, I can just back up the truck. Not as so much as like starting a fund, being real formal about it anymore.
So you're kind of keeping your options open right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty massive on like optionality in life. So you think about like everything you do has an opportunity cost because you could be doing other things, right? So the more you keep your options open, the more likely you are to have something come up that's like of higher value. So trying to like live my life in such a way to like maximize serendipity, essentially.
See, guys, this is why I wanted to have motherfucking GoMukYaSelf on the podcast for this shit right here. There's a reason. People were saying, who's this guy? Why are you going to have him on? I said, trust me, I'm going to have this guy on. You guys are going to enjoy him. I promise you. I'm not going to have somebody on if you're not going to enjoy him. I swear to God. Thank you for backing up my word, my friend. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you bringing your A game today. That was very kind of you. Someone said they want to see a graph. You ever posted any graphs?
I posted some back in the day. I think I stopped when, you know, I didn't have as big of an ego and it wasn't as important to like get 2+2 fanboys. But like, yeah, I mean, the best, like, pretty much I was on pace for the best month of my poker career, April 2011 when Black Friday hit. So I always like to say I was sort of like Deion Sanders, like forcefully retired at the top of my game. I was really crushing at that point, but I mean, honestly, right now, I'd be surprised if I could beat like 1-2 full ring. It would take me a while to get anywhere near that point again.
You were at a top. You were over $1 million on Full Tilt, right?
On Poker Stars, I was not on Full Tilt. Most of my play was on Stars.
Oh yeah, Poker Stars. You were still up a lot on Full Tilt though, weren't you?
I think on according to PTR, I was up around 500. I think.
I forgot how much money you made fucking poker, man. This is reminding me. I was like, wait, he had a top hat. I'm pretty sure he had a top hat on Poker Stars. I remember, man. I made a bad decision. I was taking some 10-20 shots, and I decided to get all in against you. Those weren't smart. Those weren't. Yeah, those were bad ideas.
You were the fish in those games, man. You were like 4-bet calling King 10 off. I appreciate that.
I was very. We don't use that adjective around here. We call them fun players, but.
You were the catalyst.
I was a very fun player. That's true. Yeah, that's pretty sad, man. Thinking back on it, I was pretty. Yeah, you know. Wow, I was a degenerate back then. That's for sure. I was definitely. It's actually making me kind of sad right now. What was this? You were asking these weird questions. What the hell? The podcast Run Good is real. So this is an official podcast. Usually when I do live streams, people run absurdly well. Yesterday, Dankness, you know Dankness, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday, Dankness came on, talked for a bit, and then he won a goddamn tournament. And then the guy we're railing for the prop bet, he got second place in W Coup. It was an amazing Run Good day, man. It was just, it was great, man. It was great. Jose says it seems a bit silly that you just wouldn't play for a few hours a week and get, say, $2K a month or something.
So that's sort of my plan in Argentina. I'm looking. So I'm getting back into poker. If that wasn't clear, But I'm really only going to be playing like 1-2, 2-4, maybe some lower stakes PLO, just because I'm kind of curious about learning, as we discussed.
Back up the truck. Oh, I'm moving out of the country to play with you. I'm gonna pwn you up as long as I can, man. I'm getting you back, son.
You're gonna have to come down to like 50 NL to find me. So if you do a prop bet down there, we'll spar.
Wherever if you play PLO, I don't care what stakes you're at. I'm coming to those stakes. I'm getting my money back. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, so like we were talking with cost of living. I mean, it's gonna be pretty cheap to live down there. Maybe like 3,000 or 4,000 tops to have like the best apartment in the city and like go out for every meal, that kind of thing. So I figure I can, play like 10 to 20 hours a week of 1-2 and like easily do that, and then have the rest of my time to just explore and live life. But I mean, for me, it's kind of unclear whether I'll be able to do that, because I have such like a all or nothing personality, where I think it'd be interesting to see if I could be like a part-time player and not just completely get sucked back in, which I'm trying to avoid, by the way.
That's what I was going to say, because you mentioned earlier you were pretty all or nothing whatever you do. So if you end up going down there and you find yourself maybe doing okay or struggling at 1-2, 2-4, I could potentially see you getting kind of, getting the juices flowing a bit like that, kind of maybe putting in more hours than you might have anticipated.
Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for those people playing there right now. They don't want to see you back there. I know that. They're like, please leave GoMuk. Someone said, does he honestly not think he can beat 200 NL? It seems absurd. I agree. It does kind of seem crazy that you might think you can't beat 200 NL right now.
The game has changed a lot, right? I mean, imagine like I haven't really even like thought about poker in like over 3 years. Whereas people in those games have been playing them day in and day out for 3 years. So I'm not saying that like I couldn't, but I'm saying that I wouldn't right now.
You're a modest guy, my friend. We like that around here. We like modesty. We like positivity. We like happiness. We like good things and good people around here. So we like that about you, man. We like your modesty. What do I have on the list? You're moving to Argentina by yourself, right?
There, and I'm going to hope to recruit some more. But yeah, it was just more. I was down there in February, and I really loved it. And rather than sitting here and making a huge analysis of like the best place to live, I figure I'll just go down there and see if I like it.
So did you already find a place to rent, or are you going to be looking?
I'll be looking, but there's a big expat population. I mean, there's plenty of places that like cater to the typical poker player with like the penthouse and the rooftop pool and a walkable location. I don't think it should be hard. That's
cool. Well, I do know some former friends and guests of the podcast who lived in Argentina that I can always put you in touch with, and they can, if you ever, I'm sure but you probably easily can meet some people, so it wouldn't be too hard to find people down there. So.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I have a couple things on my notes. So I got through your story. Now I can ask my more other topic questions. So you never joined a training site to make videos, right?
Yeah, I was recruited by them. I was very close to signing at various points with Card Runners and Blue Fire. I'm friends with the Card Runners guys. I don't even know if they're actually. I think they moved it on, but like at the time, and I really loved what they were doing. But like the amount of money they could pay me just wasn't worth it for the information I was going to be giving out. I just didn't feel good about like putting out videos that weren't going to be my best work, and my best work would just cost me way more than I was getting paid. Blue Fire approached me about becoming like a part owner in the site, but again, I did just like the terms and like the personalities just didn't fit, so I ended up just kind of sticking to coaching. I mean, from an hourly rate perspective, like teaching one person poker is probably much more profitable than teaching like the entire community poker. Because like every single person you play with on a daily basis is going to be watching those videos and figuring out how to play against you better. At high stakes at the time, there was maybe like 50 players, so like the cost of getting out information was really high.
So do you think, looking back, that it was probably bad that there was some like? Do you think the training videos had that big of an impact on the no limit community at that time?
Um, they certainly had an impact, but I think probably the biggest impact was public results, notably poker table ratings, where and like also I mean kind of sub that like poker tracker, where with mined hands you could essentially know exactly who was winning how much and losing how much in the games. Before that, like there were players who played weird that people would assume were fish who ended up being like massive winners. Klicitan probably being the best example, where like at that time he was min raising and everyone's like, oh well, only fish min raise, so this Klicitan must be a fish. And then as soon as results became public, everyone realized he's the biggest winner of the games and started like emulating his style, which took a lot of money out of the games. So like not only could you know like who the good players were and emulate their style, you knew who the bad players were and just started like relentlessly bum hunting them, which was just like really, really bad for the economy and for just the general like outlook of the games, in my opinion.
That's interesting. I never thought about that particular thing right there, where the PTR. I never thought about PTR having that big of an impact on things back then, because I think you're right. I mean, yeah, when you think about it, it's a great point that when you don't know how people are doing, or you only have hands that are in your database, then you can go off that, but it's not that's not the actual story. So if you have 20,000 hands in your database and this guy's down this amount of money, well, you could assume that guy might be a weaker player, but you can't know for sure. Whereas with PTR, they have every fucking hand the guy's played. Then you could, yeah, as you said, you could emulate that person's style. You could maybe go take advantage of the weaker players, and that's kind of where the whole entire bum hunting thing even started. Obviously, you knew about Scout 931, a recent addition to the PLO community. We welcome Scout with open arms. But yeah, did people know about Scout before PTR came around? Was he like already known as one of the most fun players of all time?
You could actually like get a seat with him sometimes. It wasn't like there were 40 people on the list instantly. He just became notorious because of like the gross amount he had lost, not because he was absolutely horrible. There were lots of fish who were way worse. He just happened to be the most famous.
Fun players, not fish. We don't call them fish around here. We call them fun
players. He was the most fun to play with.
Thank you.
All right, he was the most notoriously fun player to play with.
Do you remember any 2+ tours that might have been fun to play with?
Not off the top of my head, no. Sorry.
Do you have any favorite 2+ tours that, looking back, that you remember them from being on 2+2, that you remember them in a fond way?
Oh man. Let me think about that one, and I'll get back to you.
Do you remember anything about 2+2?
Dude, I mean, I went from probably spending like a couple hours a day on there to like a couple hours a year now. I'm pretty out of the loop, honestly. So I could like drop some names, but they'd be so old.
I'll know who they are. You can drop some names. It's fine. I'll probably know who they are. So let's give us some names, man.
I always loved the Wells. I think the Wells were extremely interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, even if like there wasn't any skill there, sort of like getting inside the heads of the people you played with every day. I mean, I always have to give a shout out to like the small stakes full ring. Wait, no, the medium, well, small stakes as well, but like the medium high full ring is the one that I was really involved in. I mean, most of my close poker friends and like still some of my like really good like real life friends came from like participating in that forum. It was sort of like my social outlet when I first got into poker. So like, I mean, that was real huge, and I love a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I found that too, that a lot of my better friends that I have now I met from micro stakes or small stakes full ring, and then now in high stakes PLO, which is where I spend most of my time. But I think it's interesting that you spend so much time in a forum or in a community, and then you end up becoming like legitimate real life friends with these people that you know what I mean, you never really met before, and then all of a sudden you're like living in a house in Vegas and living in a house in Hollywood with them. That's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it's both that like no one else really understands. Like when you make a commitment and like, oh my God, I'm on a 25-50 table with Scout, like everything else just goes out the window. All those other commitments, I mean, no longer exist. Like no one really understands that except for another poker player. And it's also, you see this a lot in other industries, you know, like music being an obvious one, like guys who quote unquote like come up together, who was sort of like have that same like growth curve, tend to like stick together for a long time, just because that's like a really like intense like bonding experience.
Do you know a lot of people in the music industry or music world these days from your worldwide adventures?
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say so, but I've kind of found that the most talented musicians are going to be ones you've never heard of, just like the most talented poker players are going to be ones you've never heard of.
I've heard of Odd Odson. I've heard of Isildrun. I've heard of LaForce. I've heard. What do you mean? Those are the most talented PLO players. I've heard of all those guys. Number one, CTS Cole South, the current number one six-max player in the world. I've heard of him.
And I'm not saying those guys aren't among the best of the world. I'm saying the best player in the world right now is going to be someone that you've never heard of. I don't know who that person is, but he's out there.
True. I agree. We got John the Main in the house. You know John the Main, obviously, right?
Yeah, he actually has my beard beat, so mad props to him.
He's got your what?
He has a better beard than me.
Does he really? Is he living in? I think he's living in some Asian country right now.
Back in Vancouver, I believe.
Oh, John, why'd you move back, bro? There's something like South Korea. What's this girl he's in a relationship with? He must have imported something. He must have imported somebody. All right. He definitely imported. John, congratulations on the import, my friend. We wish you luck, buddy. John did a little import, man. The kid goes over there. The kid goes over to Korea and just fucking imports, man. That's good to see, man. Ricky, I wish Ricky was here. You obviously know Ricky, right? Mask.
I do.
Yeah, those are fun. I enjoyed hanging out with those people in Vancouver. We had a lot of good times together. They were the worst influences in my life.
You are who you surround yourself with.
AJ Phoenix, Fantastic Cow, and Ricky. Thank you. Thank you guys for getting me addicted to the life of rage. I appreciate that, my friend. That was very nice of them. Well, guys, all right. If we got some questions, guys, if you guys got any questions for GoMuk, here's the time to ask. Let's get some fire questions here. Nick DeLisi says, why aren't guys like ruling the poker? Why aren't guys like this, meaning probably you, ruling the poker media? Instead, it's Dan Coleman. Yeah, do you know anything about Dan Coleman?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to the like the high stakes heads up sit and go players, which is like a crazy sub community in of itself, they refer to him as like the best, if not like one of the top 5 players in that like super competitive niche. So like yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously he's having like the heater of a lifetime, but like not surprised to see him do well. I mean, he's crazy talented. As far as like his not talking to the media, I think it's like one of those things that sort of like blew up way out of proportion, and now there's just like no way of putting it back in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. People want my opinion. I don't have an opinion on it. I don't necessarily care. It is what it is. He doesn't want to do whatever he doesn't want to do. It doesn't. You know, what can you do? I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's real easy to say, like, look at like Daniel Negreanu and those other guys who are doing such a great job of promoting poker. Well, it's because they're getting paid 7 figures a year to do so. Either they had like a percentage of one of the sites that was sponsoring every poker show, or they're getting directly paid all their buy-ins, right? If you don't have that direct monetary incentive, it would be very interesting to see how things would have been different with those guys.
Yeah, I agree. It's man, on one hand, obviously, you know, with what I'm doing now, you know, I'm trying to have a positive impact in terms of entertainment, I guess, or providing some type of, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for right now. I've been awake for quite a long time. But, I mean, I can understand his viewpoint on just not wanting to make poker, more popular, or more. He thinks it's bad for people. Basically, he thinks it's a bad lifestyle or a bad whatever. So I understand where he's coming from, and I understand why he might not want to bring more glamour to it than that people want to see or something like that. So
I can see that too. I mean, I get a little bit depressed about it sometimes too when I play live poker. It can be a pretty like predatory way to make a living, and it's certainly not for the weak of heart or people who are interested in like being healthy and balanced, because it's very tough to do that. But I also think that it can be definitely a means for good and self-improvement. And I don't really have any moral qualms about poker as a way of making a living, but it's definitely a position that I wouldn't like fight against. Does that make sense? Like I can it's not, I don't necessarily agree with this point, but I think it's a good point.
what was the first thing you just said right there? I was listening to you, but then I was concentrating on something else you just said. The first thing you said was it's very predatory. You said poker in itself is very predatory, and that's one of the reasons why I started doing these. That's actually the biggest reason, is because I wanted to do something with my life that wasn't just me exploiting people or preying on weak players. And it kind of gets draining on you after a while. Like, your only goal is to just fucking take advantage of other people's weaknesses. That's like not a very day-to-day enjoyable thing to have for years and years and years. So that was definitely a reason why I kind of wanted to find something more different in poker I could do that could have a more. I mean, now I'm just turning people into degenerate gamblers that maybe wouldn't have ever played PLO. So in a way, I might actually be doing worse off than I could have been. But someone says you look like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the soccer player, the football player. Sorry, guys, I know we got a bunch of Euros out there. Football player. Do you take that?
That's awesome. I'm sure he does pretty well for himself, so I'll take that as a compliment.
I'm pretty sure he's a crusher with the women. So I think that's a good thing.
I think what you're doing is awesome. I mean, you're giving a great outlet for people of all levels to learn more about poker, and I think you're giving great exposure to players who deserve to have their voice heard. It's the ability to like host something like this is pretty far out of the skill set of a traditional poker player. I know like a lot of my friends who have podcasts, it's an extreme amount of work and pretty limited like direct financial return. So like, I mean, I'm all in favor of what you're doing. Obviously, I'm pretty excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I agree. That was one of my initial goals. I thought PLO needed I thought it was dying down as far as the name players or people you tuned in for, the Zygmunt, David Benjamin, the Durs, those guys weren't playing anymore. And then you have all these new guys that no one knows anything about. And I wanted to kind of showcase those people for people to learn more about. And, now there's someone like, Lafort? Sean Lafort?
Of him, I haven't met him.
But he's one person that before I really had him on, no one really knew much about him. He had some videos on Run It Once, but outside of that, he was pretty unknown. Once they got a chance to hear this motherfucking guy talk, they're like, he's my new favorite poker player. I mean, he's like the PLO god of people now, man. He's like overtaking Phil Gaffon in a way. So, that's like a cool thing to be able to kind of help, catapult people or just get them out there meeting people, or maybe they want to make an impact on someone positive in their own life. And yeah, man, it's cool, man. What does Higher Primate say? He says, do either of you guys own / invest in Bitcoins? I don't, but do you? You probably do.
Bitcoin's still a pretty sore spot for me because so if you remember Seth, one of my roommates in the house, he was essentially spending like his entire waking hours reading about Bitcoin. To the point where I'm just like, just tell me a little bit more about like what you're wasting your complete life on, just for like my peace of mind. And he goes into like a little like diatribe. It's like, all right, that sounds kind of interesting. Like, just put like 1% of my net worth on that. Did that cut out?
Yeah, it's okay.
So I'm like, all right, if you're spending your entire life reading about this, it's got to be a little bit interesting. You're a pretty smart guy. I trust you. Put like 1% of my net worth in there as like a long-term investment. And I completely forget about that. This is when Bitcoin is worth like $3. I like just like someone mentions Bitcoin to me one day. And it's like, oh, I wonder how much Bitcoin is worth. I'm gonna go on there and check. It's like, oh, it's worth $15. It's like, well, shit. 5x return on my investment. I'm gonna cash that out. I cash out every single cent. Whereas if I had kept those Bitcoins, I'd I'd be rolling in dough like DuckTales style right now. If I had just like either one been like lazy and just like never ever checked it, or two been like, okay, I'm at least gonna keep like some of this in there because my original idea of just like keeping 1% of like, just because I know Seth's smart was good, but I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna cash it all out, and that trade didn't work out too well for me.
So is that how Seth is still living this high-class lifestyle in Hollywood over there?
Yeah, he's traveling around a lot to like conferences and festivals, but he's in LA right now. And he's still, he wears a Bitcoin shirt every day. He's like, their evangelist.
Hmm. Seth, man. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that guy. Withered Reg. GoMuk, are you a fan of the book 4 Hour Workweek? Have you read any other of Tim Ferriss's books?
I'm a huge fan. I'm an absolute huge fan. It really gets you thinking. That idea I had before about making a list of the things that you want to do and have, so you can figure out how much money you need to make every month. I pretty much stole that directly from 4 Hour Workweek. The idea essentially is like work smarter and like know what you're working towards, right? Not all work is created equal. So yeah, it really kind of like was a turning point in my life reading that, and it spawned a lot of kind of lifestyle changes that I made after.
What was the biggest lifestyle change that you feel like you made directly from that?
The idea of comparative advantage. So in economics, they talk about that, where if like you're better at doing something than someone else, and someone else is better at doing something than you, then you should let them do the thing that they're good at doing and just pay them to do it for you, and stick to the things that you're best at. So trying to like spend as much of my energy on the areas where I have like the highest hourly or the highest return, whether that be like happiness or productivity or whatever, and trying to like outsource all the other stuff. So like getting like groceries delivered, having a virtual assistant to take care of minutia, having like a regular like house cleaner to come by and take care of all that stuff. Just kind of like getting rid of all the things that I don't, either one, don't enjoy doing, or two, I'm not good at, and like diverting all that time and energy to things that I do enjoy doing and am good at.
I gotta read this
And that's
book.
like that's a big way that he gets down to like the proverbial 4 hours, is like he gets rid of all his other work.
I could definitely learn to do that. What are your other favorite books? Do you have any other books that you'd recommend that are some of your favorites?
So many. I'm a huge reader now, and I think it's the biggest ROI activity you can do, particularly like nonfiction stuff. I can only think of ones that I recently read. One was Man's Search for Meaning. It was by a guy named Frankel, about his time in the concentration camps. And essentially his takeaway from that is that like men can live forever as long as they have a reason to do so. So like your whole quest and like reason for living is to find what that reason is.
1940 published?
Yeah, it's super old, but very, very good. I recently read Vagabonding, which is all about sort of the art of long-term travel, and both like the mindset and philosophy of what you should be thinking about, and like some practical tips to start doing so if you're interested in the nomadic lifestyle, which I am. So that one's really good. What else? My probably all-time favorite book would be a tie between Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, which is basically he went around and like interviewed like the 500 most successful people in the world, and then just like wrote down what they all do. It'd be The Magic of Thinking Big. A guy, I forget his first name, last name is Schwartz. Essentially, is just like stop wasting your fucking time with like small things and think about like the big, like have big goals and dreams and aspirations, like working on things that are going to be mentioned in your obituary, not like that you'll forget about tomorrow.
I saw you post something like that on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I'm thinking a lot about lately. And then number 3 is like just the all-time classic, but one I try to read once a year. It's I'm gonna get the name wrong, but it's like how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie.
That's the book in my queue.
Essentially,
I'm reading right now. That's the book I've been starting to read.
It's like the handbook to like having great relationships, and the key thing that like he really hammers home is that like everyone only gives a shit about themselves, so the best way to get people to care about you is to ask them questions and care about them. And yeah, that one's really good.
Well, how do you find that you read so many books? What's your strategy for reading? You know, do you take notes when you read them? Do you kind of try to read it fast? Do you take your time, or what?
I haven't, but I am now. I try to like just read fast, and then if something really like catches my attention, I'll like reread it to try to reinforce it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing now, this is like a very recent, like last week thing, is just like anytime I have a brilliant idea, which hopefully is often, I like write it down. I pretty much went my entire life without writing anything unless it was like a class assignment, and I found that just like writing things down like really helps me create like associations between things. So this weekend we're just like hiking around the woods, and literally any like interesting thought I had, I like wrote it down. And now I feel like I could just like recall all of those from memory, and I have this just like bank of interesting things that I want to explore more. Whereas like yeah, like a lot of things I've done, I couldn't tell you a single thing about them because I never wrote them down. So definitely something I want to keep doing moving forward.
Do you feel like writing them down is different than putting it in your phone as a note?
Yes. I mean, the great thing about a phone is you can do it with one hand, and you're always carrying it around. The thing about writing is that you get that like movement of like your hand too, so there's a little bit of like muscle memory that's created.
So you mentioned that you have these ideas written down now. So what's your plan of attack? You know, how do you go from the ideas on this sheet of paper to actually doing these ideas, or starting to learn to do them, or trying them? You know, do you have a process? Are you still kind of learning that right now? You know, what the best way to go upon that is?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Something that I found out really quickly in like the startup world that's kind of a mantra is that ideas are worthless. Execution is priceless. So like you hear all the time like your friends in a bar be like, okay, I have this idea, but you can't tell anyone because someone's going to steal it and they're going to get $1 million off it. And like, first of all, one, your idea probably sucks, and two, even if it was good, if I could just like take it and just like run with it and become a millionaire, it's probably not that hard to do, and someone's already way ahead of you on it. So just the idea that like you need to just start. Like we were saying before, don't be aspirational. Have some action. So if you have this thing that's like, all right, this might be interesting, what's the absolute first step there? So say like, oh, like I think I might like want to learn salsa. Well, instead of like sitting around there, like sign up for one class and invest like 1 hour at a time. And after an hour of learning, it's like you'll know whether it's something you want to pursue or something that was just like a flash in the pan, like worth exploring. But you'll never know until you take that first step.
I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to be able to hopefully take something away from some of the things you're saying, which I hope they're able to, because I think there's a lot of people that you meet. I'm sure you probably are meeting a bit more motivated people right now, but I'm sure you still encounter a lot of people who have a lot of hurdles in their life when it comes to trying to do new things or trying to get out of their situation, trying to better the situation they feel like they're stuck in. And I think there's a lot of poker players out there who find themselves feel like they're stuck in the situation they're in, whether that's what stakes they play or if they have a real job and they might be playing live or online on the side and they want to quit that job. So, hopefully, maybe they'll be able to take something away from this conversation. Obviously, you've said a lot of great things about just in terms of how to get out there and, how to potentially travel and escape the norm of a lifestyle kind of thing. Do you find it when you meet people now that are in a career where they feel like they're going to probably be in that career for the next 10 to 15 plus years? Do you feel like you look at them differently, or do you feel like you have do you feel like you can gain something out of that potential relationship with that person? I'm trying to explain it a different way, but do you kind of understand what I'm saying by that?
I think so, but I'll try to spin it in a way that's good.
Okay.
For me, I think something I've been thinking about a lot in terms of like my relationships and my interactions with people is just like being super present. So that, like, for example, when I meet a new person, they're a potential like new best friend or like new like dream wife, right? And like going into that interaction with that intention that I'm going to try to get as much out of it as I can, and that like this person has something interesting to offer. So if I meet someone, for example, and they're like working in this like IT job for the last 50 years, and they've been living in the same city in like Nebraska their entire life, I mean, my usual reaction in the past would be to completely dismiss them as like a waste of time. But like now it's like, okay, this person has like something that they can teach me, and my goal is to figure out what that is. So like maybe they're an expert in something that's important to me, and I try to find that out and learn from them. And if they're not, then okay, I move on to someone else, because who you are is who you surround yourself with. But like not immediately like dismissing people. I think particularly as poker players, we get in the habit of like really thin slicing people, where we meet someone like in like 5 seconds after, we're like, wow, that girl is so stupid, or like, wow, that guy is such a douchebag, and like trying to get past that, like your initial impression, more towards like, who is this person really?
Definitely, that was me a couple years ago when I was in Spain. I realized I had that epiphany, and when someone told me something, and I was like, wait a sec, I was exactly like that. I I don't know, man. I had such a bad outlook on life and about other people at that time, just because I felt like from poker. And then that's one of the biggest things I've worked on over these past couple of years, is just kind of being able to look at everyone I meet open-minded and try to look at them in a positive manner, and then figure out, like as you said, can I learn something from this person? Could we be friends? They have something in common. What if we don't have anything in common? Maybe I might learn something from them. I don't know. I definitely go into interactions with people a lot more open-minded, and I'm sure obviously to be able to travel around the world and to be able to be happy or live comfortably or find new encounters, you have to be able to have that type of mindset really down pretty well.
Um, yeah, that being said, I mean, with not immediately dismissing people, you also need to be very intentional about the people you spend time with. So just thinking clearly about like, who do I want to be, and like who has those traits that I want to have, and like going out of your way to like keep those relationships strong. Because there's a sort of like limited number of like next level people in the world. To say sort of like the 1%, for lack of a better word. And like those people are just like leaps and bounds and beyond other people, and they can be leaps and bounds for you in terms of like your development if you can cultivate a relationship with them and you can add value to them. But like you have to be like really like active about like finding these people and staying like close with them, and that's been a big focus for me lately.
Trying to find these, however you want to classify them, type of people, and then building relationships with them and kind of seeing what that leads to.
So yeah, like have you ever like met someone and you're just like, holy shit, like this guy has his shit together, like this is someone that I could really learn from. Like it doesn't happen that often. When it does, it like leaves like a really good impression, and I'm like, okay, I need to find some way to spend more time with this person. Like how can I do that? And like if they're like a level beyond you, which some people are, they don't have time for you, right? They're too busy. They have their choice. They can hang out with anyone. So it's like, okay, what do I have that I can add value to this person? Maybe they want to learn poker. For me, maybe they want to learn like analytics for their business, or they're interested in travel. They want to hear about destinations. Like everyone has something to offer. You're trying to have to think about like, what do I have to offer that this person would be interested in?
Kind of like the idea of treating yourself as we could talk about this once maybe as a video game character, role playing character. You're trying to kind of boost your EXP levels in different categories to make yourselves more, I guess, valuable or appealing to other people that exist out there in the world as well.
Yeah, if you think about it, like you have like a video game character, and when you start off your quest, you get to choose like what your attributes are going to be, and so like every time you have an interaction, you can sort of stack yourself to maximize your chances of making it to the boss.
Exactly, man. It's kind of it's a fun outlook that I know not many people out there have, but hopefully more people will have that one day as they continue to grow here. Let me see. I got a couple more topics we'll talk about, and then we'll wrap this up. What's your career achievement?
My what?
Your career achievement so far. Your biggest accomplishment, your thing you're most proud of, which could be two different things or the same thing.
I mean, I think in poker the hardest thing I did was being a consistent winner in those like 25, 56 max games that are running on stars. I mean, probably like the hardest games in the entire world to win in, and I did it pretty consistently, which at the time seemed normal, but in hindsight it was pretty mind blowing. Just because like the people just literally, I don't know if they probably don't still, but like at the time they just did not make any mistakes. Whereas like moving up, even like regulars playing every day, you could see like obvious mistakes they were making. I mean, these guys, for lack of a better word, played pretty perfect fundamentally. And really the only way to beat them was being like one step ahead of them. Either like you found out they had a certain tendency on a street that they weren't aware of and you could take advantage of that, or maybe they were a little bit too aggressive or a little bit too passive in one spot. But like, yeah, I think back and it's like, holy shit, I was pretty good at poker at one point, and that's pretty cool to think back. I mean, like professionally, I think going from limited or no, value that I could add to a startup to leading marketing for a pretty quickly growing startup in a very competitive market was pretty good, and I was pretty happy about that. How fast I was able to grow. Because like a big thing for me was I didn't even know like whether I could like hack it in the real world anymore. I thought that I had just like completely fucked up my work ethic and my ability to learn things other than poker that had like an immediate financial return, that I would just like show up and completely get fired. That they realized like this guy doesn't know what he's doing, he's lazy, like he has no value, like want him out of here. And to be able to like exceed in that environment that was pretty unfamiliar, I thought was pretty cool too.
Those are two awesome things, man. Great answer. Great answer. Know the answer to, because I know for this question I have ideas, but I don't necessarily have something specific right now, and that is, what are your goals for these next 2 to 3 years? Do you have anything tangible? Is it kind of get down to Argentina and kind of see what happens or see what comes up, or do you have something specific that you'd like to be at this area of life, or you'd like to get this done?
I don't necessarily have plans as much as I don't necessarily have goals as much as intentions. Like I intend to move down to Argentina and crush poker and go out and eat steak every day and have like a great time, but that could change between now and then. I mean, my only ongoing goal is just to live an interesting life and to do things that I find fulfilling and cool. In the meantime, like plans get in the way of plans. Like I don't want to do anything that's going to like necessarily lock me in. I want to maximize my serendipity. So I'm just trying to do as many like cool and interesting things now while I still can, before something comes up. And 2 or 3 years just seems like an eternity away from me. I mean, and until I get to your age and I'm an old man, I can't even think about that.
Shit, man, 2 3 years, you're gonna be my age now. How does that even feel? Oh my God, man. When I met you, you were just a little kid, man. You were a little fucking little guy. Just a little guy down here, man. GoMuk, what's up? Nice to meet you, my friend. Even though I thought you were always older than me, and debatably you still might act older than me. And you might look older than me too, actually. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this lasts in a couple years here. So all right, let's wrap this up. Chris, GoMuk, very much appreciate you coming on. You've inspired me. I'm gonna go back and listen to this tomorrow again because I feel like I'm gonna wake up more energized and more motivated than I might have normally woken up. And guys that came, checked it out live. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. If you want to get in touch with Chris, you want to ask him any question, tell him that you love him or tell him that you enjoyed hearing what he said. What's your Twitter at what?
At Sparks Remarks. I'll put it in the chat.
At Sparks Remarks. All right, and then obviously me at Joe1. Future live streams coming up tomorrow. I'm doing one with Lottie, who is a longtime PLO rag, and this week, I think maybe Friday, I'm going to do one with King Dan Smith, who is one of the best tournament players in the whole entire world, online and live.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be fun, man. This is like a podcast week. We're going crazy with podcast here. And I still got to put up my David Skolansky podcast out. I have not edited that, unfortunately, but that's coming soon. We'll be back for another live stream tomorrow for the Yarny. Chris, thank you, my friend. I wish you much luck in your future. I'm excited to follow along with what happens. Maybe I'll get up the courage to muster up a random trip down to Argentina and try not to get kidnapped. But
I would absolutely love to have you down in Argentina. I think it'd be a blast. Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, this was amazing. I really enjoyed it. All you old school Full Ring guys who have been lurking there, get in touch with me. I'd love to talk. I haven't been as good with keeping in touch with all you guys as I'd like to be. And yeah, hopefully our paths cross again sometime soon. Thanks, Joey.
All right, buddy. See you soon. Thanks, guys.